Hey everybody, Zuri here for our Wednesday Wisdom Time. I feel like I'm about to start a cooking show. I'm in my kitchen, got my apron, but I wanted to come to you live from the kitchen because this is actually what I was in the middle of doing and was going to pause and share, but I was like, why don't I just share what I'm doing real time, because that's where I am. And I want to talk to you about nourishment and nourishing yourself, like down to the soul's level, at the soul level. And what does that look like? Well, for me, I don't know about you, but it has been some crazy times with a lot happening. And that's just my life. But there's also the global, where there is a lot happening in the world, and there's a lot happening in our lives that we really need to tend to. And as we are coming into the holiday season, we are coming into the winter. It is actually the season in the annual cycle of life that is really about nourishing. And so the first thing is slowing down and nourishing. And how are you slowing down in your life? Where are places where you can make room to slow down in your life and nourish yourself? And what does that look like? So for me, one of the things that I've learned is a soul nourishing activity for me is cooking. There's the tactile part of it, and I'm over here, got my knife, I'm cutting and I'm chopping, and just, I like being in different foods and textures. I've got some okra over here that's out of my garden that I grew, and being in that and smelling different aromas and visually seeing different colors, it is something that's truly nourishing to me. And I love the fact that I can be in something and playing it in one area, and it transforms, and I create something else, and I create something that's good, that's healthy, usually, that, then I can consume, or that someone I love can consume. And so the whole process is a very nourishing process. Now, most things that we can do, we can bring a sacredness to it when we're conscious. Now, there's lots of times we're cooking and it's functional, and we gotta cook and we gotta feed family or ourselves or what have you, and there's no conscious element to it. And so what I'm talking about is when we're able to slow it down and breathe and let our soul really come alive and let ourselves be guided and truly make it a sacred journey. And that's something that comes naturally for me with cooking. For others, there's too many other things. We hate doing it, or we're not good at it, or whatever. And that's not it, and that's okay. That's not your nourishing activity. But all of us have those things, those certain things that we do that feel great. Now, to be clear, really authentic, nourishing things are things where typically we're not using technology, and it's kind of back to basics. It's us integrating where we can just be somehow engaged with ourselves and other things. It could be going for a walk outside or in nature, or even just sitting in nature. For some, it's crafts, and they like crafting, whether knitting or quilting or cross stitching or carving, different things. For others, it's art. Not that crafting is not art. And it's, whether with a paintbrush or ceramics, and I've just started ceramics. I love it, love it, love it. Music, playing music, or even just listening to music. So I want you to think about, what is that nourishing thing for you that feeds you, that really allows you to slow down, check in with yourself, and really do some healing, do some release. Because I'll tell you, the other thing is, and one of my mentors told me this, like, we're just at a heightened energetic time in this world right now, And there's so much going on, even if we're not consciously tuning into it, a lot of times when our body is feeling it. And this is our time to really do release, do grounding, do supporting work for ourselves, and just warming, caring, giving, like wrapping. Imagine, what's that thing that makes you feel like you're just wrapped up, cuddled in a nice warm blanket? Now, granted, some of you are like, I want to wrap up, cuddle in a nice warm blanket and watch TV and watch a good movie. And that's fine, and that's great, and that's a nice relaxing activity. But I'm talking about that thing that will fill you. And I'm inviting you to think about what are those things that you can do that goes outside of TV, outside of the apps or games or social media, but is just something sacred and special for you. Because now is your time to do that, not just as one time, but to start cultivating and crafting that. And I'm going to get into this more, because as we allow ourselves to slow down in a conscious way to start removing things, then two things will often happen. One, a lot of stuff that's been pushed down in there that we haven't dealt with, or that's just there, will start boiling up. And so a lot of times we're avoiding doing the slowing down and the nourishing and the going within, because we're like, oh my God, I don't want to deal with the stuff that's there. Let me tell you, that boiling up stuff is so powerful, because when it boils up, you have the power to release it and be done with it and let it be gone. I just did some big release work this morning, and it's amazing. And so sometimes we're afraid of what happens in dealing with that deep, dark stuff that's inside, whatever you want to call it. Some call it shadow work. Some call it doing the, dealing with our shit, seeing the stuff we don't like. But whatever it is, don't think about or focus on the dealing with it. Focus on the what's on the other side for you, the freedom, the cleansing, the power that you have access to. Because underneath all of that, that's where your powerhouse resides. That's what's available. So when we allow ourselves to nourish, we allow ourselves to then access, slow down, and make room for stuff to come out. And then when that stuff comes out, we have even more room and space for depth of knowledge, for insight, for intuition, for divine guidance to come through. And this is such a special time to do that, for us to close out the year, acknowledge ourselves, really come to clarity from what this year was about, and boy, was it a year, and set ourselves up for a ridiculously amazing 2022. And I know a lot like, I just want to be done with 2021 and let's go on to 2022, but there's a way to make yourself whole from this time. So I'm going to be talking more and more about that with you as we go together for closing out this year, because it's been a year and there's a lot to be acknowledged for yourself from this year. There's a lot to be healed. There's a lot to be let go of and released. So step one in doing that is nourish, and figure out what that thing for you to nourish is. So just a quick little ditty. What I'm making today in my nourishing meal is something called khichdi. And khichdi is a traditional Indian dish. It comes from the Ayurveda health tradition. And it's a very healing dish for your body that's really good for you, depending on whatever body type you have. It's great. It's made of mung beans and usually rice is its base, but for me, because I have recently learned that my digestive system does not love rice, sad face, big sad face, because I love all types of rice. And so I'm playing with buckwheat, which is another grain, which is a really healthy, proteinaceous grain, low glycemic index, and so forth. So I'm going to be making it with buckwheat and all sorts of good vegetables. And then it's really the spices like turmeric and the herbs and ginger and all of those good things to really just do good in your body. So I'm super excited to do that and make that today. So lastly, on the nourishment, even if cooking isn't your sole nourishing activity, what I do invite you to do is to tap into what is that nourishing food. What are those nourishing foods that you want to bring into your life? Because it's winter, for most of us in the world, it's cold, and that means it's the time to have warming foods, soups and stews and cooked vegetables and all of that good stuff that's great for our body, because we always want to be nourishing our body, our vessel, with what we're doing. And so to think about what are those body nourishing things to do as well, because sometimes we're on the journey and we're doing some of the deep work inside, but if you're not matching it with what you're putting in your body, it can be challenging. And I don't know about you, but I know in our Black traditions and in our soul traditions, we have some very good soul nourishing foods, especially with our greens and our beans and stuff like that. And we also have a lot of comfort foods that are not necessarily nourishing for our body. They may nourish our emotions and our heart, and that's great in certain quantities, and those are going to come out especially in the holiday seasons, and great for that, especially when they're prepared at home with love. But what also can you bring in that's nourishing for your body? Because let me tell you, there is nothing like putting good, healthy food into your body. So then you're relaxing and activating your body to be the vessel to activate your soul. So today's word of the day, nourishing. What are you doing to nourish yourself? And sending you big love till we talk again. Take care.